Welcome to Books and Beer. We are back at Green Bus Brewing. Woo! Green Bus! And today they're letting us sample the Dunkelweizen, which she pronounces is a lot harsher than I do, but I think it's Dunkelweizen for us Americans.
Dunkelweizen.
It's very good. Inspired quite an odd array of picks, in my humble opinion, and I think you should definitely get us started with that, though.
Well, I am not one for New Year's resolutions. I think if you want to change yourself, you can do it any time of the year. You should be pressured to clean your house or anything like that. And a few years ago, there was this big rage about what looks like it should be pronounced Hygge, but it's actually Hygge. It's the Danish art of comfort. Ooh. And I love it. I thought with everything going on right now, this is something that would be a great replacement for those people who just don't feel like doing a New Year's resolution, but do want to kind of just feel better. There's nothing you buy. There's nothing you, like, it's not like feng shui where you have to set things up a certain way. There's no rule to it, and that's why I really liked reading more about this. The library has so many copies of different books on this. Hoopla has like dozens, and then we have quite a few in the system, hard copies. We have audiobooks. So what this is, it's about adopting a lifestyle that you choose is your most comfortable. So it's a term that you use to describe things. So this beer, this wonderful beer, that is a dark beer, and I love dark beers, but it's so light, so refreshing with a little hint of coffee. Definitely Hygge. Definitely Hygge. But Hygge is how it describes it. It's a feeling. It's about finding that favorite chair at home, getting nestled into it, getting a book, maybe lighting candles. I don't like a lot of harsh lights at night, so I'm all about dimming lights or lighting candles. It's about finding what makes you comfortable and sticking with it. And if it makes you comfortable to get rid of half your crap, go ahead and do that. If it makes you comfortable to have knickknacks all over the house, do that. It's such a neat book, and it's small, it's easy to read. So I think that's a great way to start off this year.
Get comfortable in an uncomfortable world.
Yes, I think we all need it. But yeah, there's been a bit of a resurgence for this Hygge in the past few months. I think with everyone quarantining, it's caught back on again. People are realizing how much time we spend at home. They're realizing that they can actually make their life a little better without having to buy something. It's really just finding out what makes you happy. Do it. Get comfy. Really loved it. Great book. Now next week is the inauguration. So I chose a couple books that have to do with presidencies. And so yes, after what a crazy year we've had so far, and it's only, 2 weeks into it?
2 weeks into this. Everything is fine.
Everything's fine. So this is a book that came out in 2018. It's James Patterson. If you never read James Patterson, you've probably seen one of his movies. I mean, he's a very famous author. President Clinton. Probably heard of him. So I read
probably heard of President.
Probably.
Probably.
I read this book when it first came out on my Kindle, and I think I had read like one James Patterson book prior to it. So this was a little different, honestly, than what I was used to reading. I thought it was funny because I could just imagine Clinton writing this, and the president he wrote was kind of like the president he wanted to be. Like you had this. The president of this book had a lot of similarities to Clinton, similar background, stuff like that. But also, he was a single dad who was celibate. He was a war hero. So there's a lot of these things that, you're like, yeah, that's, a little different. So it was like parts of that it was neat knowing that Clinton put some of himself in this.
Aww.
But I really think he wrote the president as he would have wanted to be. I thought that was neat.
So cute.
But yeah, it's kind of like it takes place over a few days. There's a cyber virus threat. The president decides that with a little eye pencil makeup and a little stubble, he's going to go incognito and save the day. And so it was fun to read, let me tell you. Definitely I think that Showtime bought the rights to it, but because of COVID, they were never able to actually do anything with it. But this is definitely one of those books where I could.
Yes,
yes,
we haven't even. Yet.
I honestly think they shelved it.
Oh,
I know,
no.
but no, but this is one of those books where I'm like, I could see them making a movie. This could be one of James Patterson's next movies. But yeah, it was an interesting read. I had to reread it again because it had been so long. But yeah, definitely if you want that thriller presidential book. Now this one I got, it's a YA book. I wanted to branch out, have something a little lighter. And this one is Not If I Save You First by Allie Carter. It was written also in 2018. It starts off where the two children are 10 years old playing together. And then it is quickly revealed that the young boy is the president's son and the young girl is actually the Secret Service man's daughter who protects the president. But these two little kids grew up in the White House together. They're friends. And that opening scene, the First Lady is kidnapped. The girl's father goes, saves the day, and saves the two kids. And then immediately after getting shot, the next week, gets up and leaves, takes his daughter, and moves to Alaska. Never really gives her a reason why. 6 years later, the president sends his very wild son to Alaska, to the safest place he knows, with a man he trusts. And he was expecting this big welcome by his old best friend, and instead he got a cold shoulder by a very, very angry teenage girl. So, in the writing style in the beginning, honestly, I'll tell you this, if you pick it up and you don't like it because of the writing style does improve. I think the author was really writing it, so it seemed like a 10-year-old was telling the story. I almost put it back after a couple chapters. It does improve. This book, funny enough, it actually got better, like, continually as you went on. Like, up until the end, it was still getting better and better. There's a twist at the end, and this is something where I think if they turned it into a movie, it would be like some girl's breakout role as an action star.
Yeah.
So it's the girl is the one saving the day. I mean, he's not helpless by any means, but it's definitely a nifty book. I would recommend it to any of my young friends who want some kind of adventure and deal with the presidency and everything. So, and Russian kidnappers.
In Russian kidnappers.
So,
Alaska, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a hop skip.
She bedazzles her hatchet.
Of course she does.
Because she's bored 16-year-old.
Bedazzles her hatchet. Wow.
But no, it was surprisingly got better and better. So I liked it. But yeah.
Excellent.
What did you choose? Because I love what you chose.
I know you do. So, Dunkelweizen, dark beer, dark soul, Edgar Allan Poe.
Heck yeah.
That's a pretty logical. If you know who Edgar Allan Poe is, that's a pretty logical trail. Anyway, next week is also Edgar Allan Poe's birthday. And this is one of those writers that you've probably heard about or know about tangentially or have seen an adaptation and didn't realize that the story is Edgar Allan Poe. But he was a early American writer, early 1800s. I think he was born in 1809. Died whenever he was really young, 40 years old. Really kind of a tragic life, actually. He had actors for parents. One left, one died. He grew up with a foster family who gave him the surname Poe. Poe or Allen? Allen. He gave him the last name Allen. Poe was his parents' name. Allen was his foster parents. But I have a range of books by and about and for Edgar Allan Poe. And the first one here was on Hoopla. Edgar Allan Poe is a master of macabre stories. So mystery, horror, things that make your skin just crawl in a very imaginative, visceral way. So I chose one of the audiobooks that it's great to read Poe because it really gets your imagination working, but I love a good read poem or short story by him. So I pulled from Hoopla Edward French's The Masque of the Red Death, his interpretation of it. And basically what happens is a prince decides he can escape the Red Death, the Red Plague that's happening in Europe by going and living in the country in his mansion and just like keeping himself holed up. And after months of successfully doing this, he's like, I'm gonna have a party.
We have no idea what
We
that's
have
like.
no idea what this is like.
How can we in any way imagine this to be similar?
So he's deciding he's gonna have like this gigantic masquerade ball, which means everyone's wearing masks.
That's always a great thing to do.
Always a great thing to do when you're in
pandemic.
crowds in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah.
Anyway, but things get a little weird. A stranger comes in mist, dressed in completely red, and he starts following the prince through the mansion, which is color-coded rooms, and it's very beautifully described. But eventually, when the prince decides to turn around and confront him, like, the robes collapse, and it ends up being Death himself invading the mansion, and everyone dies. Spoiler, everyone dies.
Well, it's Poe. I mean,
It's Poe. Everyone dies.
If everyone didn't
Poe.
die, everyone was already dead before it started.
Yeah. There's no shortage of people reading Poe's work. It's great. Actually, I do believe this is an entire album of his short stories that Edward Fringe does. And you can find them on Hoopla, or if you want to just listen to them hack, here's a little hack. All of that album is also free on YouTube. So if for some reason you don't want to go to Hoopla, you don't want to kill one of your 5 uses for the months, you can actually go find it on YouTube. But there's actually 3 different versions of this for audiobook on Hoopla too, so there's a range of different speakers. So that's something Edgar Allan Poe actually wrote, The Masque of the Red Death. Something he didn't write. We're moving into a very different arena. You can find a bajillion books about Edgar Allan Poe. Biographies, some great, some not so great. Adaptations of his work, which is kind of what this audiobook falls in. And things that are just strange and based on his life. That is what this one is. It's called Eddie, The Lost Youth of Edgar Allan Poe. And it's a juvenile fiction book by Scott Gustafson. And I love that Edgar Allan Poe is just called Eddie, and it's so cute.
Little Eddie.
But little Eddie, it does start with a short biography, the facts that we know about his youth. We know a lot about what happened very early on, and quite a bit after he got famous. Famous in his own right. There's history stuff. What we don't know is really kind of how he decided to come up with all these ideas, these horrific ideas for writing. And this is kind of what Gustafson kind of postulates on. So he thinks that when his alcoholic dad left the family, he went into his son's bedroom one night to say goodbye. And when he leaned down to, kiss him on the forehead, a little devilish imp jumped off of his shoulder and onto Eddie's. And the author basically says this little devilish imp lives with Eddie and speaks to him in his ear, and only he can hear him. And he gets him into a whole bunch of trouble during the daytime usually, a whole lot of mystery stuff, and at nighttime just inspires these nightmarish kind of scenarios. So the book is a mystery, something happens, Eddie is framed for it, Eddie has to piece all the puzzle together to be proven innocent. And there's some pretty interesting characters you meet along the way. But it's set up very much like Edgar Allan Poe writes his books. So it's from Eddie's perspective, so that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Finding the clues and slowly piecing things together. It's nice. It was a fast read. I read it in less than 24 hours, but that's because I kept getting distracted with a baby.
Yeah.
And you probably can't see this far away. It's got really lovely pencil illustrations. Every single page has an illustration on it.
That's great.
And it's very evocative of some of the stuff from this book. This is Poe Illustrated, and it's edited by Jeff Menges, I want to say is how his name is pronounced. But it has art from Dore and Rackham and Manet and a bunch of other people. It's basically what you get if you make a movie out of a book, but instead it's a book about a book. So it's art talking about art. And what I like most about this is it talks about 10 different artists who made depictions of Poe's writing. So Poe was alive and wrote during a time where making illustrated books was not financially or technologically really possible. So all of this came after he died and after art and printing technology really took off. So a lot of what you see here are actually illustrations from later editions of his book. And what I really like is that they give little paragraph biographies of each artist, their influences, how they came up in a certain school of art, and how that school of art influenced the pictures they made for Poe's books. And I know that's getting super cerebral, but if you want something like that, Poe Illustrated is just
It sounds awesome.
really solid pick. And it's anything from beautiful pastels to pen line drawings too. But yeah, those are my picks. I really did enjoy these. I love Poe. I know you love Poe.
He's my favorite writer.
Yeah. But anyway, 6 new books.
Yay!
Go read them. Go listen to them. Go find different versions of these ones.
Or this one.
Or that one.
Lots of. I think every one of mine is on Hoopla. This one I think is just a summary, but everyone's on Hoopla. Everyone's in hard copy at the library, so easy to get.
Good.
So
Excellent.
You won't be hurting to find one. So.
Well, thank you again to Green Bus, and we
Yes.
hope to see you again in a couple weeks. Please make sure you subscribe to the library's YouTube page.